Japan's border policy keeping hundreds of thousands of foreigners in limbo. So, ano bang mangyayari sa ating mga kababayan na hindi pa rin makapasok dito sa Japan? According dito sa news, at kung hindi ka pa nakapag-subscribe sa aming YouTube channel, Gaijin World, mag-subscribe ka na and i-hit mo yung notification bell para lagi kang updated sa aming mga susunod pang i-upload na mga latest news related sa Japan. And don't forget to check our playlist. Pumunta ka sa aming YouTube homepage at i-click mo yung playlist tab. Makikita nyo doon yung iba't ibang mga playlist namin related sa student visa, working visa, driving in Japan, at kung ano-ano pang mga playlist na makakatulong sa inyong pamumuhay dito sa Japan. Kaya ano pang hinihintay ninyo? Mag-subscribe na kayo at kita-kits sa Gaijin World. More than a year ago, Sebastian Bressa finished his paperwork to become a language teacher in Tokyo and made plans to quit his job in Sydney. His life has been in limbo ever since. So, ibig sabihin, dahil nga sa COVID ay natenga siya at nandun pa din siya sa kanyang bansa. Japan has kept its door closed to most foreigners during the pandemic, and the 26 years old Australian is one of hundreds of thousands denied entry to study or see their families. So, hindi din sila makapasok. Yung mga gusto makapasok dito para mag-aral, yung gusto magtrabaho, at yung makita yung kanilang familya. Yung makita yung kanilang families ay hindi nangyari dahil nga sa patuloy na pag-travel ban or pag-restrict ng Japan sa mga applicants na ito, sa mga foreigners na naghihintay makapasok dito. Japan has become one of the world's most difficult countries to enter, and some are comparing it to the Lock Country or Sakoku policy of xenophobic warlords who ruled Japan in the 17th to 19th centuries. The current border rules allow in only Japanese nationals and permanent foreign residents, and have raised the ire of foreign students and scholars who say the measures are unfair, unscientific, and force talented visitors to go to other countries. Ayan, so nagkaroon pa nga ng petition para makapasok tong mga students natin dito sa Japan dahil nga ilang taon na rin silang nagpla-plan at hindi matuloy-tuloy yung kanilang plan dahil nga sa travel ban. Sabi pa dito, critics says the rules are also hurting Japan's international profile and national interest. About 500,000 foreigners, including academics, researchers, and others with highly skilled jobs, and 150,000 foreign students. Mali pala yung sinabi ko kahapon, 100,000 lang yung sinabi ko. Mas marami pa pala, 150,000 foreign students have been affected, various statistics show. Sabi dito, I think the most difficult thing for me has been this state of living in standby. Bressa said he has been unable to commit himself to any long-term plans with his family, friends, or even at work. I can't plan that far ahead in the future, just not knowing where I end up the next month or two. So, talagang nakakaawa yung mga nagpaplano nating mga kababayan or ating mga foreign students na hindi matuloy-tuloy dito. Siyempre, hindi mo alam kung mag-aaral ka ba, magpapatuloy ka ba sa pag-aaral sa iyong bansa or ipagpapatuloy mong maghantay hanggang sa mag-open uli ang Japan. Frustrated students have gathered near Japanese diplomatic compounds around the world to protest. In Spain's second largest city of Barcelona, Laura Vieta stood outside of the Japanese consulate last week, holding up a sign saying, "Stop Japan's travel ban. I gave up my job because I thought I was going to Japan in September," said Vieta, 25, who wants to study Japanese at a private school for 6 months or longer. As you can see, I'm still here. So yun na nga, nagplano siya and until now, nandun pa din siya sa kanilang bansa, sa Spain. Japan's plans to keep the border measures in place through the end of February as it copes with the record surge of cases in Tokyo and other major cities. So sa katunayan ay 100,000 COVID cases na for the first time ang naitala dito sa Japan as of February 4, 2022, today, Friday. Makoto Shimo Araizu, a cabinet official working on Japan's COVID-19 response, said the situation is painful, but he asked for patience, noting much higher infection levels overseas. Japan's recently decided to let nearly 400 students enter, but many others, including those on foreign government-sponsored scholarships, still cannot get in. So kung di nyo pa napanood yung aking balita kahapon, ayan, panoorin nyo yung 400 students na papapasukin dito sa Japan. A letter to Prime Minister Fumio Kishida, signed by hundreds of academics and Japan experts and submitted last month in a petition drive, called for a relaxation of the border controls to enable educators, students, and scholars to pursue their studies and work in Japan. It said many already have given up Japan studies, opting to focus elsewhere, such as South Korea. Sabi pa dito, they become the bridges between Japan and other societies. They are future policy makers, business leaders, and teachers. They are the foundation of the US-Japan alliance and other international relationships that support Japan's core national interests. The letter said, the closure is harming Japan's national interests and international relationships. So maraming naniniwala na itong sobrang tagal ng pagsasara ng Japan sa buong mundo ay nakakasira sa imahe ng bansang Japan. Japan is not only the country imposing strict border controls, but the policy is drawing criticism from within Kishida's governing party and from the business community. Hindi lang naman mga foreign students ang naghihirapan sa Japan immigration rule na ito, kundi pati yun syempre yung mga papasukan nilang mga schools dito sa Japan, yung mga business owner nitong mga language schools, yung mga universities or kung ano-ano pang mga business related dito sa Japan ay apektado din dahil wala silang ma-hire or wala silang kuhang mga applicants na mag-aaral para sa kanilang school. Taro Kono, an outspoken lawmaker who has studied at Georgetown University and served as foreign and defense minister, urged that the government reopen the country so that students and others waiting for an entry can have a future outlook and make plans. Masakazu Tokura, head of Japan's powerful business organization Keidanren, recently said the border measures were unrealistic and are disrupting business. He called for a quick end to the locked country situation. On Thursday, the American Chamber of Commerce in Japan, the European Business Council in Japan, and the International Bankers Association of Japan, in a joint statement, said the entry ban has imposed real and increasing economic and human costs. They urged the government to quickly adopt a science-based entry policy to accept vaccinated business travelers, students, teachers, and separated family members. Ang dami na, damay-damay na guys, hindi lang naman foreign students ang hindi makapasok dito, kundi pati yung mga business travelers, pati yung mga gustong magturo, yung magtrabaho, mga trainee, SSW, mga working visa, pati mismo yung mga na-separate na mga family members guys. Lahat tayo ay affected dito. However, the border controls have wide public support. Many Japanese tend to think troubles such as the pandemic come from outside their island nation. Tightening border controls quickly after Omicron outbreaks began overseas may have been unavoidable, Nippon University Crisis Management Professor Mitsuru Fukuda said, but the decision to exclude only foreigners appears aimed at rallying public support. With careful preventive measures, Japan could allow foreign visitors just as many other countries are doing. He said, crisis management is for the protection of people's daily lives and happiness, and people should not have to compromise their freedom and human rights in exchange for their lives, Fukuda said. Japan's coronavirus cases plunge as Delta variant infections subside in the fall, and Kishida has said closing the border to most foreign travelers in late November helped delay the latest surge in infections. He contends that overreacting is better than doing too little, too late. He was likely taking a lesson from his predecessor, Yoshihide Suga, who stepped aside after only a year in office, partly due to his administration's perceived weak handling of the pandemic. Japan has just begun giving booster shots, but only 3.5% of the population have received them, and the medical system has been inadequately prepared for the latest huge wave of cases, leaving many sick with COVID-19 to isolate at home. The border closures did not keep Omicron out of US military bases, where Japan has no jurisdiction, including troops that fly directly into the country without observing Japanese quarantine requirements. They were not tested for weeks until Tokyo asked them to. Clusters of cases among US troops rapidly spread into neighboring communities, including those in Okinawa, home to the majority of 50,000 American troops in Japan beginning in late December. Infections at US bases exceeded 6,000 last month. On Wednesday, Japan reported nearly 95,000 new confirmed cases, a record, and Tokyo's cases exceeded 20,000 for the first time. Some pandemic restrictions are now in effect in much of Japan, including Tokyo and other big cities like Osaka and Kyoto for the first time in September. Philip Lipsy, a political science professor at Toronto University in Canada who is part of the petition drive, said he was denied entry despite his Japanese roots and his dedication to study of Japan. I grew up in Japan. I am native speaker of the language. My mother is Japanese and she lives in Tokyo. But under the current policy, I cannot enter Japan because of the color of my passport, Lipsy told an online meeting. With the outlook uncertain, many people are changing their studies or careers, he said. These are fateful decisions with long-term consequences, he said. The border closure is depriving Japan of a generation of admirer, friends, and allies. So ayan guys, narinig nyo naman yung news na ito na ang daming affected na hindi makapasok dito sa Japan. Ano ang inyong thoughts? Ano ang inyong naiisip related sa news na ito? Please comment down below. And so baybayan natin ang mga susunod pang mga mangyayari. Ngayong February na, ang sabi ng Japan Immigration or ang sabi ng Japanese government ay until end of February 2022 ang travel ban dito. Pero dahil sa pagtaas ng COVID cases dito, ngayon ay nasa 100,000 na, ay mukhang malabo na naman itong mag-end ng February 2022 guys. So ano ang inyong naiisip? Suko na ba kayo? Hintay pa rin ba? Go pa rin ba sa Japan? Ano ang inyong masasabi? Please comment down below. And ayan, thank you so much sa mga nanonood at hindi bumibitaw dito sa ating YouTube channel, Gaijin World. I will see you on our next video. Thank you so much for watching. And don't forget na i-check yung mga videos na lalabas ngayon dito. Bye!